Some people have been saying that Toto Wolf has finally thrown in the towel, giving up on that decades-old rivalry with Christian Horner. After dominating for so long, moving a rung down the ladder hasn't been easy on the Mercedes team boss. So, how is he dealing with eating Red Bull's dust? Let's find out right now, so don't go anywhere. Toto's naysayers would argue that he kind of lucked into Formula 1, riding on the coattails of others' hard work, just in time for Mercedes to snatch up the dominant power unit in the new hybrid era. And of course, when they brought on board Lewis Hamilton, it was game over for the rest of the competition, as Mercedes dominated Formula 1 for a good chunk of the last decade. Mercedes' dominance in F1 was the longest in history. But nothing lasts forever, so it's undoubtedly tough for Toto to swallow the bitter pill of being soundly beaten by his arch-rival, which makes it even harder for him to get back on the front foot. These days, his jabs at Red Bull and Horner are more restrained and toned down, especially after his star driver Lewis Hamilton fired off a ton of his own. At the last Grand Prix, Lewis fired a shot at Red Bull's Sergio Perez, saying that if he were driving the Mexican's car, things might have turned out quite differently for Max. For those of you that missed it, he said, "Do I want to be as fast as him? Of course. Would I like to have a car that's as fast as him? Of course. If I was in Sergio's car, Max would not be having the same time he's having now." Right before the summer break, it seemed like teams such as Mercedes, McLaren, and Ferrari had managed to narrow the gap to Red Bull. But in Spa, Max Verstappen showcased his exceptional skills and delivered a masterclass, finishing the race with an impressive 20-second lead, even outperforming his teammate Sergio Perez, who also had the same Red Bull car at his disposal. Following this dominant performance from this Milton Keynes-based team in Belgium, Toto Wolf didn't hold back and criticized both the Austrian team and Verstappen, claiming that their recent surge has made Formula 1 a bit predictable. Red Bull's RB19 has been an absolute beast in the 2023 F1 season. It's been on a winning streak, taking the checkered flag in all 12 races so far, and there's no sign of that supremacy letting up anytime soon. Other teams have been desperately trying to put a stop to their dominance, but time and time again, they've come up short, settling for a second-place finish on many occasions. The RB19 is just on a whole different level, leaving everyone else in the dust. Verstappen is on fire, clinching 10 wins, with Perez nailing the other 2, making it a flawless season for Red Bull with a 100% success rate. The dominance got so out of hand that even Wolff had to speak up about it, looking back at the good old days when they had a similar level of superiority. In the recent report published by Motorsport, the Mercedes boss didn't shy away from expressing his thoughts on Red Bull's astonishing dominance with Verstappen at the helm. He pointed out that even during Mercedes' own dominant phase in the post-hybrid era, they had the luxury of having 2 competitive cars, which at least provided fans with some excitement and rivalry within the team. But in Red Bull's case, it's solely Verstappen who's been leading the charge, resulting in an impressive streak of 12 consecutive wins. As a fierce rival, Wolff understandably isn't thrilled about witnessing such a level of superiority from Red Bull and Verstappen. Wolff said, "I don't know whether our dominance was similar or less, as I think we had years where we did it in the same way, but at least we had 2 cars that were fighting each other. So that caused a little bit of entertainment for everyone, and that's not the case at the moment." During his remarks, the 51-year-old also highlighted the fact that the Austrian team managed to find some additional speed just when their rivals thought they were catching up, but in all honesty, Wolff acknowledged that his team, Mercedes, will have to put their best possible effort to close down the gap. It's a challenge they're fully aware of, and they're determined to give it their all in order to compete at the same level as Red Bull and Verstappen. The contrast between Mercedes' dominant years and the current situation of Formula 1 is quite striking. Nowadays, the sport is experiencing a real boom, with numerous circuits selling out tickets quickly, sometimes even a year in advance. Take Silverstone for example, which used to host around 140,000 spectators on a good race day. Next season, it's expected to welcome a staggering 500,000 fans over the 3-day weekend. As the reality sinks in at the Brackley factory, it becomes evident that Red Bull's winning streak is likely to continue, thanks to the stable regulations in place until at least 2026, when the next generation of power units will be introduced. This realization has put a temporary hold on one of the fiercest and most spectacular off-track rivalries in F1 history, creating a quieter atmosphere as Toto Wolff and his team nurse their wounds and look forward to brighter prospects in the future. For now, they are regrouping and strategizing for the challenges ahead, hoping for a turnaround in their fortunes. According to one former F1 driver, Toto Wolf should be losing sleep over his team's recent struggles. It's been quite a shift for the Silver Arrows, considering their impressive period of dominance from 2013 to 2021, where they secured 7 drivers' titles and 8 consecutive Constructors' Championships. However, with the start of F1's new era, Mercedes has been facing a tough time. Their driver partnership of George Russell and Lewis Hamilton only managed to secure 1 Grand Prix win in 2022, and as of now, they haven't been able to take the checkered flag in any of the 12 races of 2023. Hamilton finds himself 4th place in the standings, a significant 166 points behind the runaway leader, Max Verstappen. Mercedes, occupying the 2nd spot in the Constructors' table, is trailing by a substantial 256 points behind the Red Bull duo of Verstappen and Perez. This has sparked heated discussions among fans and the F1 community, questioning whether they are witnessing a truly competitive season or not. Hamilton himself has publicly called for restrictions to bridge the gap between Red Bull and the rest of the teams, but this move has been met with some irony in the F1 circles. On top of that, the recent resurgence of Lando Norris has put Mercedes in a tough spot, as McLaren's pace is now posing a threat to them. There are concerns that McLaren might even catch up and overtake Mercedes in terms of performance. Hans-Joachim Stuck, a former F1 driver who competed from 1974 to 1979, shared his thoughts with Eurosport, expressing that this notion is bad news for the Silver Arrows. He said, "There are teams like McLaren who, of course also because of the talent of their 2 drivers, have recognized where they have to go and are now extremely close to this goal. A big compliment for that. If I were Toto Wolf, I wouldn't sleep well at the moment." Stuck, at 72 years old, doesn't support the idea of introducing new regulations solely to close the gap between Red Bull and the other teams. He believes that such changes may not be the best solution to address the competitiveness in Formula 1. Instead, he thinks that they should make the most out of their situation, saying, "In the end, however, the conditions are the same everywhere, and everyone has to make the best of it. At the moment, only Red Bull is doing that. Ferrari has a good speed, but all kinds of stupid things happen elsewhere, and Mercedes is simply not on the level of Red Bull anymore. There's no question about that." Wolff and his team have made efforts to introduce new upgrades to their W14 vehicles, hoping to boost their performance. But so far, these improvements haven't yielded the desired effect they were hoping for. At the race in Spa, where Hamilton finished in 4th place and Russell in 6th, the Austrian boss had to look into the issue of the car seemingly bouncing on the track. What do you think? Has Toto Wolff given up on the war against Red Bull? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe and ring that notification bell for the hottest F1 news.